Hey, welcome to the Unstuck and Unstoppable podcast, where we help you move your life forward. If you are living your life right now and you feel unfulfilled, maybe you're just coasting through life, you feel like you don't have any real purpose, I want you to know you're listening to the right episode of our podcast today. I'm your host, Jim Kyles. I'm here with Jolea Garza.
Yes.
What's up, JoJo?
Second week, building blocks.
Building blocks of life.
Essential building blocks of life.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
We're so excited. If you're just joining us, today's a great episode to join us. We are talking about living life with purpose. And in a day and age today, this is a message that I think resonates more than ever. I think the global pandemic, all that we walk through, I think a lot of people are evaluating and reevaluating. Hey, is my life fulfilled? Because nobody wants to just go click a time clock or punch a clock.
Right.
And there's just something that I think has shifted to where people are like, I don't want to wake up at the end of my life and
just
be unfulfilled.
Living regret. I think there's such a shift in culture, 100%. I think there are more and more people. I think before it was okay. You know, people did what they needed to just to make sure that, that they were living and surviving. And we've gotten out of a season of wanting to live and survive, but to live fulfilled.
Right.
But the question is, how do we live fulfilled?
That's right.
And so I'm super excited to unpack that today.
Yeah, well, so we're so glad you're joining us. It's going to be great. Hey, we do have someone we want to give shout out to the reviews. Thank you for those of you that are joining the community. You're leaving us some reviews. You're telling people about it. We're just so grateful. We had a great review. We always like to share, some time in there. Tell us what people are saying.
So I love this one. Big shout out to Judith Godfrey. Yeah. And so just Judith. Super excited. They said something so sweet. They said, "You are speaking life. What a relevant podcast in such times. Not only do people feel stuck, but the world feels stuck."
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, man, so true. She listed a bunch of different reasons the world feels stuck between COVID and inflation and wars. The list never ends. Thank you for letting the world know that nobody needs to stay stuck, but that we can be unstuck and unstoppable. Love and appreciate you, Pastor Jim.
Wow, that's awesome.
So good.
Well, we're so grateful. If you're enjoying this content, would you please rate us? Would you leave us a review? It helps us in the rankings, continues to get the word out. Also, if you're enjoying this, go to the website, jimkyles.com.
Yeah.
We've got lots of great resources for you there. They're absolutely free. You can also pre-order a copy of my new book that comes out in November. Yeah.
November 15th.
November 15th. Super excited. So if you haven't already done so, go pre-order a copy and be one of the first ones to get it when it's released November 15th. We're actually working on the Audible version in 2 weeks, and so I'm excited to record that and just continue to bring great content, great resources. And the whole purpose and the desire of our heart is to help you get unstuck, but not just help you get unstuck. Our goal is we want you to become unstoppable.
Yes.
Not that life never has any problems, but I want to give you tools. We want to resource you. We want you to have a place where you can go when life throws curveballs and you say, look, I don't know if I can go very far, but can I just go one step? And that's really our whole theme and motto, is just take one step forward.
Yeah, I love that.
And don't allow anything to stop you from moving. That's how you become unstoppable.
Yeah, being unstoppable is all about whatever life throws at you, the ability to keep moving forward.
That's right. So we're excited. I know this podcast is resonating. I looked at the stats the other day. Over 10 countries have downloaded the podcast.
Yeah.
And we've got thousands of downloads, and people are interacting in our Facebook community. And the reason I believe that, when I was writing the book, what I found was that 80% of Americans feel stuck.
Yep.
And I'm a pastor, so my heart was, how do you help people? God, you've got the answer. God, how do you help me craft the message that has helped me stay unstuck and really become unstoppable? Not that I've never had moments where I felt stuck, but I didn't stay stuck.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's really what the book we talk a lot about. So specifically, I think it's chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. The 4 essential building blocks of life.
Yeah.
And what we understand is that if we will focus and develop and work on the 4 essential building blocks of life, there's really nothing that can cause you to stay stuck or be stranded. And the 4 essential building blocks is first, identity.
Yep.
We talked about that last week.
Yes. Go back and listen to that podcast.
If you missed it, go back. So important.
Yep.
100%. And then today we're talking about purpose.
Yep.
And the next one is vision.
Yep. And then paradigms.
Yeah. And really, when I began to start the book, I had a great editor working with me. I actually thought the whole book was going to be about paradigms. So we may spend multiple weeks,
time.
even extra time on that, because, you know, in the Christian faith and Christian world, and we hear a lot about identity and purpose and vision, but the one thing I didn't hear a lot about was the subconscious pattern of thought, your paradigms. And I thought that's what the book was going to be about. And even as we began to write in the first 6 months of the book, that was the predominant theme of the book. But I realized that has no actual great impact in your life if you don't get the first three things right.
That's great.
Which is, I got to know who I am in Christ, not just who I am, because you don't find identity by just discovering who you are. You got to find the identity by who you are, by the one who made you.
So good.
So it's identity in Christ. And then your purpose is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It's my assignment. And then the vision is, where am I supposed to be going?
So
and then the paradigm is just the subconscious pattern of thought. It's what will either get you there or it will sabotage your journey.
Stop you from getting there.
So I'm excited. We'll go into all of that. Now, when we talk about purpose, let's dive in. We've got a few things that I want you to grab. The first one is God created you for a purpose.
Yeah, it's that simple.
That simple.
Yeah.
At Jeremiah 1:5, I love this passage of scripture. If you're not a believer, it's okay. I'm just going to read this. As a believer, this is the foundation of our life and faith and what we operate through. But at Jeremiah, it says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. This is God speaking to Jeremiah. Now, he is talking to Jeremiah. He didn't talk to Jimn or Jolea or whoever else is listening. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? He's running our camera. We love Pastor Kevin.
Yeah.
But the point is still the same. The heartbeat. He's saying, look, I knew you before you were born.
Right.
And it says, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I think it's so good to know. And I don't know if everybody knows that when you were created, like from before you were even a thought, that God had destiny and purpose set for you.
Before your parents even knew you were on your way. God said, I knew you. And I set you apart. And so what that means is, if God really knew me before I was born and he's appointed me as whatever it is that he's created me to be, that there is a purpose in every season of my life that I'm supposed to fulfill. You know, I love what it says, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Well, that's later in his life. We know the story of Jeremiah as a believer. He's a great prophet to the nations. But still, there was a purpose while he was a child.
Right, as he was growing up. And
God had a purpose as a teenager. And what was his assignment or purpose as a young adult. And then finally, he fulfills his ultimate assignment.
Right.
But we must realize that no matter what season you find yourself in, look, you have a purpose.
Yep. And I love that. I love that we're saying, you know, that we're really uncovering or discovering the purpose, because the purpose is already there. You just have to find it.
That's right.
And I think that's so important to know that it's already on the inside of you. And so even with the book, it just helps you, and the resources that we have, it just helps you uncover what is already on the inside of you.
Absolutely. And I wanted to also say this. Just because it's your purpose for that season doesn't mean you're going to love every minute of it. I mean, some purpose is painful.
That's great. Oh, that's good.
You know what I mean? It's like God is working.
Is painful.
He's working some things out. There's a rub, and he's trying to soften my rough edge.
That's really, really great. That's really good.
Well, I'm laughing because I feel like my life has been mostly painful.
I'm really trying to download that. But I love, even in life, we talk about it's 100% about you and it's 100% not about you.
That's right.
You know, and so the pain that you experience is so that you can pull other people past those points of pain as well and say, I've been there. And so maybe even a part of your purpose, like for entrepreneurs, you've experienced both the high highs of entrepreneurship, but then also the low lows of entrepreneurship. And so you can go and help and say, I've been there.
That's right.
And I know what you're walking through, and I can help you come out of that as well.
100%.
And so, man,
well, and I just, you know, because I think somebody will say, well, I don't feel like it makes me come alive. But there were seasons where God said, you're going to do this because I'm working in you.
That's great.
And then what I found was, in the season that I didn't naturally enjoy and I didn't naturally like, and it wasn't naturally making me happy, I had to find my joy, not happiness.
Right.
And joy comes in relationship with God. So God was teaching me that in the middle of the painful season, can you still have joy and do it because you love me?
Well, but that's why these are building blocks.
That's right.
Because you can go back when your purpose doesn't look the way you want it to, and when you're in the middle of a season where completing or being a part of your purpose isn't comfortable, you go back to your identity and know that
right.
I know who I am and I know who God has called me to be.
That is a great
and this
point.
is a part of the process for fulfilling the purpose that He's given me as well.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why they're building blocks. You got to do the identity first so that when the purpose is painful, I still don't lose who I am.
Yep.
But it reminds me, D.L. Moody had a great quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes. I read this often. It says, "Your greatest fear should not be fear of failure, but of succeeding at something that really doesn't matter."
Wow.
So we've got to make sure that our ladder, we talked about it, the ladder is leaning against the right goal, right vision, the right place that God has taken me, and that I don't end up at the end of my life saying, man, I was successful, but it was at the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just so committed to that and saying, God, it's not about just happiness and easy. It's what's my purpose right now? What am I supposed to be doing? What's my God-given assignment? And then don't get distracted from that. It reminds me of a story of a guy named Matthew Emmons. You've heard me tell this story.
Yeah.
He was in the 2004 Olympics in Athens. This guy was on the American team. He was in the competition. It's a 3-position, 15-meter rifle competition. Wow. And this guy was the best in the world. There was nobody that could hold a candle to him. He was brilliant. And in 2004 in the Olympics, he was actually so far ahead of his competition that all he had to do when he was shooting the rifle was just put the bullet on the target.
Anywhere on the target.
It didn't have to be a bullseye, just anywhere.
Wow.
And he automatically would win the gold medal. And what makes these athletes so unique is that what they have is the ability to calm themselves in such a way. They lower their respiration, their breathing, even the heartbeat and their pulse, their heart rate. They will pull the trigger between heartbeats.
Wow.
And it is so smooth. I mean, it's fascinating if you've ever watched how real talent and gifted these guys are. Well, here he is. He's in first place. And all he has to do is hit the target. And somehow he lines up the shot. He's getting ready. And man, he's got his eye locked into that bullseye, and he slows his heart rate down. There's no movement. I mean, he's in perfect form. And he pulls the trigger, and it goes, boom, bullseye. And instead of hearing cheering, the crowd gasps. And you hear this guy, he hit a bullseye on the wrong target.
Wow.
So where he just had to hit the target, he got distracted and was focused in on the wrong thing, hits a bullseye, and he goes from first place to 8th place.
Yeah.
No medal.
Wow.
And I wonder if even through COVID, people, they're listening, you listen through the pandemic, you were laser focused on your purpose pre-pandemic, pre-crisis, and it's like lasered in, and then somehow it's not that you're not lasered in, but I wonder if we could just assess, are we lasered in on the right target?
That's so great.
Because I don't want you to get to the end of your life and have the regret of, oh my God, I realized I was focused on the wrong thing. I was not fulfilling my purpose.
Right. I just love that. I think that we are just like I was saying earlier, we are in a culture where people are more interested in uncovering what their purpose is. But then it's also important not to allow the world, still by the world standard, to define what the purpose is.
Right.
It's like you are not, your purpose is not fulfilled by being just like every other influencer on Instagram, for example.
Right.
Purpose, you really have to uncover what your purpose is, just like hitting the bullseye. We could all do the same thing, and it's great that people follow their passion, but is it your purpose? Is a big deal.
That is exactly right. And your purpose is your assignment. And what I would say is, so it's so important for you, if you're really going to discover your God-given purpose, to ask God, what is my assignment right now? And to know that my assignment is multifaceted and it's fluid. And let me just give it, and I said it earlier, but it's like, as a student, your purpose is different than as a young adult.
Yep.
As a young adult, it's different than a young married man or a young married woman, or a father who's got a brand new family, or a grandfather.
Yep.
So every season and every stage has different facets. And so it's not like you find a purpose and you lock in and it never changes. So it's constantly, it's a fluid, God, am I in the right position? Am I doing the right thing? And there's got to be this real assessment, a constant assessment.
Right.
And I think seasons can last. I've watched the rhythms of my life. My life has gone in 4 and 8 year rhythms. It's almost like every 4 years something shifts.
Right.
I mean, here's a 10-year rhythm. 10 years ago we launched the church.
Right.
And then 10 years later I'm an author.
Right.
That's a rhythm. So it's like, okay, boom. So I didn't
season.
stop the church, but now I'm an author.
Yeah.
We started podcasting.
We're adding something new.
We're podcasters and authors. And so it's a rhythm. And it's like, God, sometimes he takes things away that you're doing. And then sometimes he adds to.
Yeah, I think it's so important, the flexibility. You said earlier this week, don't let your boundaries become barriers.
That's right.
And so being open to when your purpose changes. So I think of a season in my life where I was leading and really enjoying leading young adults. And so here at the church, and that was in my early 20s, and I was having so much fun. And then my husband walked on the scene, and we get engaged.
I remember that season.
Yeah, and I did have to wrestle because my purpose for a couple years was leading young adults and being a part of a season with other young single people. And then I had to let go of that season and walk into a new purpose, which was growing as a spouse and learning how to be a wife and learning how. And so it was just two different seasons. And so understanding what your assignment is in those different seasons is so important.
Well, so I would say it like this: to live a life of purpose is to live life fulfilling God's assignment in every season of your life. Don't leave anything on the table.
That's good.
It's like, God, this is my season, and I'm constantly evaluating, and I'm constantly, which we're going to give you, which we always do as practical tools. I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask, and excited. We also have a free resource that you can go to jimkyles.com and download it, and it's a worksheet that's going to help you just really think through this and evaluate, because that's what we want to do. We're glad you're listening to it, and we're glad we're watching it, but we also want you to work through it.
Yes, actually take the step. Yes.
Got to work through it, because otherwise it's just knowledge that's not applied is worthless. It's applied knowledge. And
so good.
And this is what we talked about, that it takes work. If the pain of where you're at has to be greater than the pain to get where you want to be, for you to begin to move. And sometimes they're like, well, it's not that bad. I'm halfway fulfilled. No, you just got to determine, am I fulfilled? Am I really experiencing all that God has for me? And then it's like, I want all that God has. And so here's 3 questions that we're going to ask ourselves to see, am I living a life of purpose? Am I living in the right space, at the right place, at the right pace for my life? The first one is, what am I doing right now that I should stop doing?
I love it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Look at your entire life and stop doing some things.
Just say no.
Yes. It is easier to say no. 1, the more you know who you are and who God created you to be. And then 2, the more you ask God, what have you asked me to do in this season? And then just start to move things out. Yeah.
Well, and I think this is where identity builds the path for purpose, because when you know who you are, you know who you're not.
Yep, so good.
And when I know who I am, I can stay in my lane. And I think what we don't do is, if you don't know who you are and you're struggling with your purpose, you'll find your identity and your purpose through what other people want to put on you.
That's great.
And here's how I talk a lot about this in the book. I've got a whole section about it in the book, is carrying the right weight.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have your identity and you don't know your purpose, what you'll do is you'll allow the world and people around you to overload you.
Yep.
And that's what happens. Now you're carrying more weight than you were designed to carry or intended to carry.
Yeah.
And you end up on the side of life.
Right.
Just broken down on the highway of life. Good. And so I want to encourage you to really take a moment and just evaluate all the things that you're doing.
That's
like
great.
If you've ever done an assessment of, okay, you know, we're doing soccer. Okay, I'm a soccer dad because I coach soccer. You know, I'm a husband. Oh, I can't take that away.
What are you doing with work?
I'm doing my chores, all the things that I've got. I've got all my assignments. Honeydews. And so you look at every, and then even more than just your task, what are my responsibilities? What are my reoccurring?
Look at your schedule.
Yes. Yeah. Evaluation. And then you'll start to notice, well, man, I think in fact, we had a meeting last night that I said no to, because it was outside of where I needed to be. And normally, even as a pastor, I could feel like, man, I got to be there.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I don't have to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
Because you know what your assignment is.
That's not my assignment.
And if it doesn't fit in your assignment, then it's easy to say no when you know it doesn't fit.
Yes, it's easier.
Yep, easier. Yes, you're right.
Because I still vacillated, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to get pulled out of where I'm supposed to be. And so what I need to stop doing that I'm doing right now? Here's the second question. What am I not doing that I should start doing?
I love that. Yep.
what am I not doing so what is it that I need to start doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where do maybe you need to start volunteering to serve at your church.
That's great.
You know, it's like, man, I feel like I know I should, but I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you say no to everything you're not supposed to do, now I've got margin.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, I should, as a disciple, as a follower of Jesus,
So
even
good.
though I'm a career man or a career woman and I've got a young family and I'm doing well in that aspect, as a disciple, I need to be a contributor.
Yeah, you can make space when you stop doing certain things. Now you have space.
Yes.
It's like, now what do I add? So just stopping everything is not the solution. No. It is not only stopping, but then adding in the right things.
Adding in the right things.
Yeah.
And then you'll prayerfully add in the right things. You'll really consider it, and then you get the advice of your spouse and those that are around you that love you, those that are helping to lead you. But I just want to encourage you. Many times we say no to God things because we're busy with good things.
That's good.
And so as we say no to just all the good things, remember, you're trying to discover God's purpose for your life. Which, here's the cool thing about it: God created you for the purpose. So he creates you for a purpose, and then he gives you fulfillment in doing that purpose. You know, I love Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. It says, "For we are God's work, or God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do."
Yeah.
So he's got an assignment for you, but I love it. He created at the core of who you are
so
when you
good.
fulfill the assignment, even if it's a painful assignment or a hard season.
Yeah.
You feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
You feel like you come alive. And that's where living with purpose will change you as a person, not because it's easier, but because you come alive on the inside.
I think for me, this was a big deal, you know, uncovering my purpose and also understanding that it was multifaceted. In my personal life, I am an Enneagram 3 through and through. And so I love working hard. Like but I had to recognize that working hard isn't my only purpose. Right. I am a wife, I'm a mom. Yep. And so I've done this evaluation where it's like, what do I need to stop doing? And so there was a season where I would work and be in the office from sun up to sundown. And so as I began to reevaluate my schedule and I really started to ask, what's my purpose here at my job? What are the things that I absolutely need to do in order to fulfill that? Then I was able to remove specifically some of the evening commitments that I had. And then what I added was family dinners.
That's right.
And so now 4 out of 5 days of the week, I am sitting at the table with my children, with my husband, and eating dinner and connecting and asking questions, because that's a part of my assignment and my purpose in this season.
You say such a great point, and I'm glad you pulled that out, because you have purpose at work, you have purpose in church, you have purpose as a family, you have purpose in your marriage.
Right.
So every facet, there ought to be like, here's our purpose, here's what we do. And that's what keeps you centered. It's like, okay, in this season, and there are rhythms, you know, in this season, we have dinner 5 nights a week. Okay, well, the rhythm as they get older may change a little. Okay, we're going to have, what's the purpose? Connecting.
Right.
How we connect may change.
Then it goes to 3 nights a week. And then maybe there's a season where you go back to school, or maybe there's a season where you are launching a business. And so I love you have an example. You're like, hey, when I was in a push season in my job, you sat your family down and you said, hey, I'm going to be gone a little bit more.
When we were building this building, I said, I got 6 months and it's going to change for 6 months, which means we're not going to do a lot of this, but we're going to make it up on these trips.
Right.
And so, but because the purpose was to connect as a family, we connect. So good.
That's great.
And then the last thing, that the question that you got to ask is, why not do it today?
Yes.
So you just need to list out, why wouldn't I do it today?
Come on.
And I think what that does is I know what it does. It identifies any excuses that we tell ourselves. Well, I can't because And what you're going to find is many of them are not valid reasons. They're excuses.
That's great.
And if it is a valid reason, then create a plan of how to overcome that valid reason.
Or a change.
Okay.
Plan for
2
change.
months, I can't because of this commitment, but I'm going to resign from that commitment. Here's the plan. And so it just allows you to transition.
Healthy transition.
100%.
Yes.
And when you answer these questions, again, go download the worksheet. We're going to help you. Also, I want to encourage you, in the spring of 2023, we're going to do our first one-day event, and we're going to do an Unstuck and Unstoppable one day.
So excited about this.
And so if this is something where you're like, I've downloaded the worksheet and I need more help, We're going to do a one-day event. We're going to come and help you get unstuck. And we're going to focus on the four areas. Yeah, identity. By the time you leave, you'll have an identity statement, your purpose. What am I supposed to be focusing on? Your vision. Where are we going? And then paradigms. Yeah. What is it that's sabotaging my life now? And so just know that we are here to help you. And I'm excited about that. Well, we've come to the end of our time today.
Yes. Yeah. It's time to take some steps.
Yep.
Yeah. So there are a few things that we want you to do. The first thing that we ask that you do is subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. That way you get notified when we drop a new podcast every Tuesday morning.
Automatically comes to you. Listen, we're asking you to go out and teach it. Make sure you teach one thing that you learned today to somebody. The best way to learn something is to teach it.
Engage with us on social media. We have Instagram, Facebook. We even have a Facebook community that is free to you. We'd love for you to join that Unstuck and Unstoppable Facebook community. Post about what you've learned. Post about things that you'd like to share or any aha moments that you're having.
Yeah, another step we'd like you to take is, would you just post a review? Wherever you consume the content, it just, again, helps us in the rankings, helps people say, oh, it's a podcast worth listening to. It'd mean the world to myself, and I know to Jolea. And then last, share this podcast. Would you just pull out your phone right now and just say, I'm going to share it with one person? Maybe you post it on social media. We'd love to continue to help not only you, but those that you love to get unstuck and become unstoppable.
Yep.
Well, we can't wait to see you next week.
Absolutely.
Until then, bye-bye.
See ya.